Hello children, welcome back to science class. Today we will continue with the fourth lesson, heat. In this session you will be learning transfer of heat. Children, you will remember what did we learn in previous session. Come, let us have a recap. Children, we have learnt about heat. Heat is a form of energy. Heat makes a substance hot. How hot a substance is can be measured. Heat is the cause. Sun is the main source of heat. SI unit of heat is joule. Temperature is the measurement of hotness of an object. Temperature is the effect. SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. The scale we use is the Celsius scale indicated by degree Celsius. Temperature should always be stated with its unit degree Celsius. Temperature is measured by a device called thermometer. There are three types of thermometer. Clinical thermometer, you can see in this picture. This is laboratory thermometer. And also one more thermometer is there, that is known as maximum and minimum thermometer. A clinical thermometer is used to measure the body temperature of human beings and other animals. A clinical thermometer reads temperature from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. The normal temperature of a human body is 37 degrees Celsius. It is equal to 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. The normal temperature of dog is 28 degrees Celsius and goat is 40 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. You know children, nowadays we are using digital thermometer and temperature gun to measure the human body temperature. A laboratory thermometer is used to measure the boiling and liquid point of liquids. A laboratory thermometer reads temperature from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. The melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius. Today in this session we will be learning the topics. They are transfer of heat. What is meant by transfer of heat? Methods of transfer of heat. They are conduction, convection, radiation. And also today we will learn about land bridge and sea bridge. Children, both clinical and laboratory thermometer diagrams you copy in your classwork book neatly. Then what is meant by transfer of heat? With example, now we can understand. When you have high fever, your mother puts cold towels on your forehead. The cold towels take some of the heat from your blood and become warm. This reduces the heat in your blood and brings down the fever a bit. Do you think it would work if we used a hot towel instead of cold towel? No, heat was transferred from the hotter object to the cooler one. Here our body is hotter object and towel is cooler one. So we have seen that heat flows from the hotter object to colder one. How does heat transfer? Heat goes from a body which has higher temperature to that which has lower temperature. What is meant by heat? Transfer of heat now. The process by which heat flows from one object to another is called transfer of heat. Children, you remember, always heat flows from hotter body to colder body. We must note that heat always flows from a hot body to cold body. There are different ways in which heat transfers. If you pour hot water in a mug, even the mug becomes hot. If we hold a metallic spoon over a flame, after some time the other end also heats up. The heat is traveling from one object to another in a certain way. This method of transfer of heat in solids is called conduction. How does conduction work? You know that each substance is made up of small particles called atoms. These atoms are very close to each other in solids. When we heat a solid at one end, the atoms that receive the heat start vibrating fast. Children, you can see in this picture how the atoms are vibrating. As they vibrate, they pass on the vibration to the next atoms. How does conduction work? Conduction happens mainly in solids. All atoms vibrate, but they vibrate more when heated. Heat spreads by conduction when atoms increase their vibrations and pass this energy on to those nearby. The hot atoms do not move to the other end of the solid, they stay in their place. They only pass on their energy to their neighbors. The substance through which conduction takes place is called medium. You can see conduction at work. Take an iron rod, clean it with a cloth and stick blobs of wax onto it at small intervals about 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters. Fix a small nail in each blob of wax. Hold one end with a cloth and hold the other end over a candle flame. Soon you will see that the nails start falling off one by one. Children, you observe clearly. When we heat the tip of the rod, how heat is transferred atoms to atom. The nail closest to the fire falls off first, then the one after that, and then the one after that. Do you know the reason why? That is because heat is traveling through the rod by conduction. The particles of iron closest to the fire got heat first. Then they passed it to the ones next to them and so on. So the particles get heated in a line. That's why the wax closest to the fire melted first and the nail fell off first. What would happen if you had not held the rod with a cloth? As the whole rod heated up, your fingers would be burned too. So, it is very good idea to hold the rod with a cloth. Do you think conduction works the same everywhere? Conduction takes place at different speeds in different substances. Heat travels faster in some substances than in others. Materials in which heat travels fast are called good conductors of heat. Metals are good conductors of heat. That's why cooking utensils are made of metal. They heat up fast on the fire and transfer the heat to the food inside to be cooked. And because of conduction, the whole utensil becomes hot, though we are heating only the bottom surface of the utensil. If there are good conductors, there must be bad conductors too. Material in which heat travels very slowly are called bad conductors of heat, and also they are called insulators. Glass, paper, wood, plastic are insulators. That's why the handles of cooking vessels are made of these materials. You can see on this picture. They do not heat up even if the vessel does, and this makes it possible for us to hold them. What did we just learn? Heat flows through solids by conduction. The particles of the solid substances that are closest to the source of heat get heated themselves and start vibrating. They pass the heat to their neighboring particles, and those particles then pass the heat to their neighbors until the whole substance gets heated. If there are more particles packed close to each other, the particles only vibrate in place during conduction. They do not leave their original place. Materials through which heat can travel quickly by conduction are called good conductors of heat. Most metals like iron, copper, silver, aluminium, etc. are good conductors of heat. Substances like glass, wood, paper, mica are insulators, or they are also called bad conductors of heat. We know how heat spreads in solids. Now let us see how heat spreads in liquids. In a beaker, take a little water and start heating it. Before the water boils, pour a few drops of ink in the water. Instead of using ink, you can also use here potassium permanganate crystals. Observe how the ink is spreading. You know, children, water is a liquid. Comparing to solid, in liquid, the molecule atoms are arranged little bit, not tightly. In solids, the atoms are arranged very tightly. There is no intermolecular space between two atoms. Even that's why we can heap it up. But in solids, the intermolecular force is more. There is no. You will notice that colored water rises from the bottom of the beaker and then comes down again. The water at the bottom of the beaker heats up and rises. As it rises, the cold water in the surrounding moves in to take its place. Then the too heats up and rises. This is called a convection current. A current keeps on circulating till the entire body of water heats up uniformly. This is how heat gets transferred in liquids and gases. It is known as convection. In convection, the particles that are heated actually move to the another location and new particles come to the heat source and get heated. It is important that you understand why the hot water rises. When water is heated, it expands. When it expands, the density of water reduces, which means it becomes lighter. The lighter water rises and the cooler water is heavier and so sinks. This is what sets up the convection current. If you want to cool all the air in the room, should the air condition be near the floor or the ceiling? An air condition sends out cool air. Cool air is heavier than warm air and so it sinks. It will come to the bottom of the room. The hot air will be at the top of the room. The cool air that ejects will keep coming out and settling at the bottom of the room. So the air conditioner should be near the ceiling so that it will get hot air to suck in and cool down all the time. If you want to heat all the air in the room, should the heater be near the floor or the ceiling? A heater sends out warm air. Warm air is higher than cool air and so it rises. It will come to the top of the room. The cool air will be at the bottom of the room. The hot air that it ejects will keep coming out and settling at the top of the room. So the heater should be near the floor so that it will get cool air to suck in the warm up all the time. Why do you think there are holes at the bottom of the lantern? A lantern needs air to keep burning. The hot air rises from the top and leaves the lantern. The holes at the bottom allow the cool air to come into the lantern. This sets up a convection current for the air. In summer, when you swim in a pool, you will find the upper layers of water warm and the lower layers cool. Is this because of convection currents? No. Convection currents transmit heat in the upward direction. Then why is the upper layer warm? That is because they get heated by the sun. The source of heat is from the top, not the bottom. Convection occurs in gases and liquids, means fluids. Hot fluids rise, cold fluids fall. The whole fluid rises in temperature due to the mixing caused by the convection currents. What did we just learn? Heat flows through liquids and gases by convection. The particles of the fluid substances that are closest to the source of heat get heated themselves and rise to the top. The neighboring cold particles slide in and come close to the source of heat. They get heated and rise too. As this happens, a convection current is set up. As the process continues, the whole fluid gets heated. In convection, the particles of the medium leave their place and become part of the convection and current. Convection needs a medium just like conduction needs a medium. The sun is so far away from us, still we feel hot. There is no solid, liquid or gas that would transmit the heat from the sun to the earth. Between the sun and the earth there is just the vast emptiness of space. Then just how does the heat from the sun reach the earth? It is through a process known as conduction. It is a radiation. With radiation, energy can travel through a vacuum as well. It travels at the speed of light in straight line. Can you understand the different ways heat is being transmitted now? Land is a better conductor of heat than water is. So, during the day, land gets heated by the sun much quicker than water does. So, the air above land is hotter than the air over water. When the air is hotter, the particles vibrate more and move away from each other. So, the pressure of air on land becomes lesser. Wind blows from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure. So, how will the wind blow? From the sea to the land. That is called sea breeze since it comes from the sea. At night, land cools down faster than water. So, the water is warm and the land is cool. At night, the air pressure on land is higher than air pressure on water. So, wind blows from land to water. This wind is called a land breeze since it comes from the land. Sea and land breeze. Thus, in the day, in areas near the ocean, we have sea breezes, while in the evening, we have land breezes. You can observe in this picture. Children, when we come out in the sun, we feel warm. How does the heat from the sun reach us? Children, now we will learn one more important transfer of heat is radiation.
Radiation. If you stand in front of fire on a winter day, you feel hot. The heat you receive certainly does not come to you by conduction and convection. Here you receive heat by a third way in which heat energy is transferred from one body to another in exactly the same manner as light. This way is called radiation. In radiation, heat is transmitted from one body to another in a straight line in all directions and at a very great speed without the aid of the intermediate particles and without heating the medium through which it passes. Heat is transmitted from the sun to the earth by radiation. Then we say that the sun radiates heat, and this heat is called radiant heat. All hot objects, solids, liquids and gases radiate heat. The amount of heat radiated by a hot body depends on its temperature and its color and nature. Applications of radiation. Some important applications of radiation in our daily life are given here. White and light-colored clothes are more suitable in summer because they absorb very little amount of the sun's heat and thus keep our bodies cool. Dark-colored clothes are more suitable in winter because they absorb most of the radiant heat of the sun and keep us warm. Room heaters have polished reflectors at the back of the heating element so that they absorb very little heat and reflect most of it. The base of a cooking utensil is painted black so that it absorbs more heat and cooks food quickly. Radiators of cars and air conditioners are painted black so as to radiate maximum amount of heat to produce cooling effect.
Children, I hope you have understood the lesson. Please read the textbook. Take care. Thank you.